Good evening and a very, very nice welcome to everyone watching the Curious Mind series podcast. Good evening, Enchik Sofian. Can you hear me? Am I loud and clear to you?
Yeah, loud and clear, Vikram.
Okay, perfect. That sounds like a perfect for a Thursday evening at 8 o'clock. So, to all our audiences who are listening to us live, it couldn't have been a better day. It couldn't have been a better time than having somebody as seasoned as Enchek Sofian with us today evening. Now, as the old saying goes, the beautiful thing about learning is nobody can take it away from you. And that is why daily in our lives, whether we are in the education sector or whether we are in professionals, whatever we are doing, we always want to learn, we always want to upskill, we always want to enhance ourselves at all point in time. And that is exactly the essence of today's podcast. Now, the training industry in Malaysia has been experiencing continuous growth and adaptation over the years at this point in time, driven by many factors like continuous skill development in a rapidly evolving market and government initiatives to support the training and development. Companies are increasingly investing in corporate training to enhance productivity, employee satisfaction, and innovation. Now, without taking further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to the 18th episode of the Curious Mind series. And a very, very nice welcome to Enchek Sofian Amin, Chief Program Officer from HRD Corp. Very welcome. Good evening, sir. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good evening, Vikram. I'm doing great. Actually, I was in a bit of a rush. To tell you the truth, I just came back. I got stuck in the office. I reached home practically like 10 minutes ago, so I was rushing, setting up the laptop and all of that. So I'm glad I actually was able to get it on time.
I'm glad that you've been able to make it at Clive, and this is exactly what all of you in the audience are going to experience today. Somebody who is extremely humble, extremely nice, extremely vulnerable, and just very open and candid, even if he holds such a senior position with such an important organization like HRD Corp. Now, just to before we start off with the discussion, it is our pleasure in our On Curious Mind series to have a stalwart like you, an electrical and electronics graduate, and Chik Sofian showcases stability in his career all throughout his rich career graph, always with the motto of giving it back to the society and communities and adding value in his own nice way. If you have look up on LinkedIn, there is not so much so-called jazz, what we call in nowadays. But if you want to look at stability of somebody's career, you should look at Sofian's profile. He started his career with Unilever, which is where he did. Moved on to being an M&E services manager for almost a decade, and then was associated with In the Water for 14 long years. After that, he has taken on the role within HRD Corp since May 2017. Started off as the head of training marketing department, and for the past couple of years and more, he's been playing a very, very crucial role of the chief programs officer within the HRD Corp organization. He, along with his team in HRD Corp, has made some solid contributions to the training industry in Malaysia, uplifting the entire ecosystem. So here we are today with very, very basic, humble introduction to Sofian Amin, having him on as our guest for today, wherein he is going to reveal some interesting insights, some candid inputs in a very direct, open, candid conversation. Are you up for it, Sofian?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, we go way back with Vikram. You know that I promised to be on your show for quite some time now. For some reason or another, we kept putting it off. So it's a bit of a relief that I finally made it, and I don't have to keep thinking, oh, I promised this thing to you, I didn't quite make it. So wonderful to finally be on Curious Mind series.
Thank you, thank you. I'm humbled too, and I'm really glad that you are finally on the show. So, to our audience who are thinking why is Sofian saying it's in such a humble way, I've been probably behind him for almost a year to be on the Curious Mind series podcast, and it is no other reason that just been busy schedules because of which he's not been able to. But we are just glad that you're here with us today and willing to respond to ask some of our questions. So before we begin today's discussion, again, to some of you might be listening to the Curious Mind series for the first time. To some of you have been listening to us for a while now. But just to reiterate, this is a LinkedIn Live and a YouTube Live podcast. This is not edited. This is non-filtered conversation, and that is the essence of the Curious Mind series, where we just go live. And the best part is the guest speaker doesn't know the questions we are going to ask. So Sofian, under nothing in the world, has any clue what we are going to ask him other than the topic or the title which was discussed with him. Um, um, so what we are going to do is his answers are purely going to be based on the guest speaker's experience, your expertise, your knowledge, your wisdom, and the guest speaker's personality. So without further ado, we are going to start off right away. And while we do it, Sofian, my one request to you, probably you need to up your volume a little bit. I know it's been a long day. I know it is 8 o'clock in the evening. I know you've rushed from office. I know probably you need a glass of water around you. But to our lovely audience out there, if you can just enhance your own volume pitch a little more higher, that will really benefit the audience. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'll do what I can.
This is the last thing you would want on 8 o'clock in the evening after a long day, but that's what we are, and that is what great leaders do. Okay, before we move on, around some of the core aspects of this discussion, extremely curious to know, and I've read your profile. I know I've not had a chance to speak to you directly on it, but what brought you to this space in your life journey, and how it is aligned to your vision where you are today?
I think like you mentioned, Vikram, I actually graduated in the field of electrical and electronics engineering. I was a Unilever scholarship holder, so my first job was with Unilever. It started out in basically in the factory, control engineer. So if any of you know Unilever, you know for a long time, Unilever brothers in those days. I guess I
Mhm.
just more or less gave away my age. When I joined them, they were Lever brothers. At the old KTM. I don't think it's there anymore. I don't know. It used to be in Bangsa, but I was one of the first where they actually set up a new um, factory in Bukit Raja, Shah Alam. So I was one of those that set up the factory. So that was my first job. I was there for about for around five plus years. Um, then Unilever decided to go purely into trading. I mean, sorry, trading, not training. Training
Hmm.
came later, and I guess it's understandable because at that time, what Unilever did was it's a huge multinational company. They
Yes.
built large factories all over the region, and most of these factories were under capacity. So you had there was factories in Thailand, in Vietnam, in Indonesia, and there you have this one small factory in Malaysia. Um, Labor costs were not that cheap anymore. So it's probably it was a wise decision on their part to shut down the factory. And on my part, when they shut down the factory, um, Unilever being Unilever, they actually had a whole program to help us readjust whether we wanted to go get another job, how to apply for another job, whether we wanted to go into entrepreneurship and things like that. They actually offered me a job in Vietnam, and me being the Malay kampong boy that I was, the only thing I was thinking, what bloody hell, where am I going to eat in Vietnam? Sorry, excuse my language. So unfortunately, I didn't take the opportunity. Was out for of a job for about a year and a half. Decided to go back to Malacca. Then I joined India Water Consortium. Also in the field of engineering.
Mhm.
Started off in M&E, basically operation and maintenance, sewage treatment plants. I was there for about, like you said, about 14, 15 years. My last job in IWK was actually taking care of all the public sewage treatment plants in the whole state of Negeri Sembilan. That was my last job there. But throughout the many years in IWK, I actually transitioned my role from an engineer towards more of technical management. And when you do technical management, that includes human capital, I mean, staff development, basically staff development, training your vendors, your contractors, as well as taking up roles in terms of procurement and vendor management and quality control and things like that. So I was there for about 14, 15 years. It came to a point where I I wanted to try something new. And it was around that time that a friend of mine said that Pembangunan Sumber Manusia Berhad, HRDF in those days was looking for someone. Why don't you give it a try? So I
Hmm.
did, so I did, and shame on me, I didn't really know what they were at that time, but I just went, and it was helpful that um, HRDF at that time, HRD Corp now, the office is actually very near to where the IWK HQ used to be located, very near. So I was familiar with the area, and this also remember that this was me coming back to Bangsa after like 15 years out of it. So the first thing when I came back to Bangsa Damansara is that, oh my God, how much things have changed. But I came into HRD Corp. One of the first questions they asked me was probably a question that you're thinking about now, because I'm a bit reluctant to say that I worked in IWK before I came to HRD Corp, because I know the question that comes is how did you move from that to this? And
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, and that question was asked during my interview. And what I told them was, because again, when I interviewed, I actually interviewed for a role in operations. So I told him operations management is operations management lah. Doesn't matter. I was in Unilever. I handled ice cream and soap and detergents. I was in Indah Water where I handled shit. Sorry for the language. Basically, waste management. But the principles are the same. Operations management is all about management of resources to meet your targets and things like that. So that happened. Um, After that interview, a few months later, they contacted me. They gave me a job called head of vendor management. And here I
Okay.
was thinking, okay, based on my experience, vendor management is procurement.
Hmm.
Everywhere I ever worked, vendor management meant procurement. So I was thinking, why are they giving me a position in procurement? But whatever lah. It was an attractive offer. I wanted to try something new, so I took up the job. And only much later, only when I joined it, I realized that vendor management, and in those days in HRDF, only referred to one particular type of vendor: training providers. Procurement is procurement, vendor management is training providers. So that was how I joined. I've
HRD
done a
Corp.
few things since then. That's how I joined HRDF. I've been there for now it's HRD Corp. I've been there for 8 years now, doing more or less the same thing, but increasing in scope, doing more and more things. But I think one of the things that I've done since I joined is, um, I can't speak for my predecessors, but I think I'm one of the first guys who actually went down to the ground and started talking to trainers and training providers. And maybe because of that, the training industry by and large knows who I am. So that has been my journey so far. Whether that is in line with my career plan and all, to tell you the truth, I never really had a grand career plan. If you asked me 5 years ago, what would I be in 5 years, I wouldn't know. But I'm happy where I am now, because I always tell people that the great thing about working in HRD Corp is that um, you are in touch with what the nation wants. You're in touch with the national aspirations, and some might agree with me, some might not. But a lot of the things that we do is towards driving something that is bigger than who we are. So I know it sounds like a cliche. It's not just about I go to work, deliver whatever my KPIs are, and go back. There is a feeling of I'm actually doing more than this. I'm contributing more than just the job. I'm contributing towards the nation. So I guess that's where we are right now.
Excellent, excellent. And I think, I mean, if I look at it as, thanks for sharing what you've shared with us. But if I look at it from a perspective of an outsider, there is a steady pattern of you wanting to do something for the community, wanting to do something for the society in your own way, and which has kind of showcased definitely in the HRD Corp space, where a lot of trainers, a lot of training providers, even I know of, who really know you very well, and they know for a fact that you are extremely approachable. So that's a great thing, that a lot of them know that you are there and you are approachable. So we're going to go on to some of the interesting questions, knowing your journey, and I know it is kind of connected to the vision. I'm also going to put it forward right out there to our audience, to our people who are listening to Encheck Sofian. If you have a question, or you have a suggestion, or you are curious about something, or you have a remark you want to share, just type it, either whether you're watching us on LinkedIn or you're watching us on YouTube. Just type in, and this is right there. The opportunity is right there directly to ask Sofian anything under the sun. and we will be more than happy, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer to you. Now, moving on very quickly, and this was just posted yesterday, um, that HRD TDF has reached a major milestone of 15,000 accredited trainers. Can you help elaborate? That's a huge number. 15,000 accredited trainers is a huge number since the time the accreditation began. It's a tongue twister for me. Can you help elaborate what does this number mean, and how does an accredited trainer add value to the learning and upskilling the ecosystem in Malaysia?
I think when we talk about trainers accreditation, trainers development framework, um, I I'm I think I'm the guy who probably started it all, and then you
Mm-hmm.
have to understand the situation as it was when I joined, and how it is today. When we first came in, and this is being very truthful. When I joined, nobody actually talked about trainers. It was always about training providers and employees. Nobody really mentioned the trainers. In fact, I remember at that time, when I was trying to make sense of it, I actually asked the question, how many trainers do we have in this country? Nobody knew. Nobody knew. We knew that we had the TTT program for 20 some years, and we have certified or exempted a certain number of trainers. Um, but we didn't really know who was active, what were they doing, whether these guys were still alive, were they still actively training. So we really did not know. So one of the first tasks that was given to me when I joined HRDF in those days was they wanted me to come up um, with a continuous professional development for trainers. I remember that was the brief. Do a CPD for trainers. Um, and me being me, because I'm an engineer, then I started comparing to CPD of engineering. And then I started looking at CPD of other professions in the country, whatever it is, dentists, lawyers, surveyors, architects, all of the professions. Then I realized CPD is not so easy as just telling a trainer to go for a certain number of courses or certain number of hours of training every year. And because the market was the way it was, it's probably something that you don't even want to say, because trainers would say, why are you asking me to go for training? So we at that time, what we did was we put together a a committee made up of all of the um, significant people in the training space. So you're talking about heads of associations and government institutions in charge of training, as well as private institutions in charge of training, to identify how how can we make how can we look at the quality of training, how can we ensure that the training that is delivered under HRD Corp is of a certain quality. And I think that is probably one of the first initiatives where we actually started to pivot towards quality of training instead of just collecting funds, disbursing funds, and going through of all the schemes and all of that. So it took me a while to get it running. And I realized that, number one, we have to address the elephant in the room, because at the time everybody was talking about the quality of the TTT. Things like these guys are whoever is running TTT is not great. How can the same guy that trains you is also the guy that certifies you, that evaluates you, conflict of interest and all of that. So we put things into place that we wanted to make it more structured. But we realized that, you see, the first and easiest way to solve this, that the immediate obvious step is that if, let's say, you were a TTT trainer, Vikram, and I'm someone who's doing TTT, if you were the one who trained me, you shouldn't be the one assessing me. I should be
Absolutely.
assessed by a group of people independent. So
Independent.
that was how accreditation came in the first place. So we said, okay, fine. Anybody that goes through the TTT, you have to be assessed by an independent party. And because we didn't want to play with the word certified, because we've been using it for so long, we came up with the word accredited. So if you're ever wondering what does accreditation means, it's just something that to signify the next step. So we
Excellent.
did that. We did that. If you go through TTT or you go through exemption, now you have to go through another evaluation by a third party to make sure that you meet the standards. And that is where the whole accreditation by assessment came about, the video and all of that. And the video, by the way, we took it from best practices of some of the other professional bodies within the human capital development space. But then the question came, okay, if you have this mechanism, fine. What about the 20 over 1,000 trainers that you have already certified previously?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's how we came up with the alternative thing. And I remember at that time, a very senior trainer came to me and said, "You want to do all this? I agree, but I don't want to be part of it because I have been training for so long. Who are you to say that I need to be evaluated again?" And I remember this, to this day, I remember this. He said, "Sofian, you need to put in a grandfather clause." I say, what the heck is a grandfather clause? The grandfather clause is you recognize someone for the things that they have done because they have been doing it for a very long time. And said that is why you got accreditation
Experience.
by experience, by activity. So that was how it started. And so when we first started out, I remember in the beginning it was all about going around telling people this is what we are doing, getting buy-in, getting people on board. And I say it's been a very long journey because I introduced it in remember that I joined at HRDF in 2017. My role was to introduce CPD. It is now 2025. We still don't have CPD. But I realized that we needed to take it slowly because even that first step of accreditation took me more than 5 years to get it compulsory. And only when we got it compulsory and we got a large portion of the market to accept it, then the numbers begin to grow. So 15,000 accredited trainers basically means that you have 15,000 trainers that are active enough and invested enough in their profession, in their training expertise to go through that step. So I always say that accreditation is only the first step. Accreditation is only talking about a base quality standard. I haven't even talked about anything else. Eventually, I mean, I've spoken about this before. I think you were there when I spoke about this as well. Eventually, we want to go further. We do want to introduce CPD. We do want to put in things that tells the trainer that you need to be continuously investing in yourself. But frankly, I don't know whether this is scary to a lot of the trainers out there. This is actually just the first step. But at least we are moving. Now I do have a database of who are the active trainers in this country, and we are slowly building the database of where the expertise are, who are the experts, who are the good trainers in whatever field. We are moving towards that now, and that is actually where I wanted to go when we first introduced the HRD Corp Trainers Development Framework all those years ago.
Excellent. I mean, I have not had a much more detailed explanation than this on why the accreditation is so important. What was the history behind it? How did it come into the picture? So a lot of trainers who are listening to us today, this is exactly the history behind it. This is the vision behind it. And while we are at it, thank you so much, Siti Nabila. She's saying, awesome, boss. Obviously, you are the boss, Sofian, out here today. So she's saying, awesome. Thank you, Siti Nabila, for sharing your love with us. Do continue to write, ask anything you all feel to do that. So while we are at it, so that's a great way of more than 15,000 accredited trainers at this point in time. Now, moving on to the next one, there are many training providers, and I don't have the data. I'm sure HRD Corp has the data. If you can share, it would be lovely to know that. There are many training providers and trainers in Malaysia, and still everybody kind of gets a share of the bigger pie. And you know what I mean when I say the bigger pie. How does an organization like HRD Corp rate or review given the current and the forecasted needs of trained professionals in Malaysia? What does HRD Corp as an organization do to just evaluate, seeing everybody there? What are the current needs? What are the forecasted needs? What steps do you take?
Again, if for any of you who has been in this industry long enough, and I still get this to this day, we used to do something that we call a star rating. We put together, even before I joined, my predecessors had this idea that we need to have a rating mechanism for all of the training providers, trainers, and programs that are being offered under the HRD Corp umbrella. So we had a star rating. But the thing is, when we did that star rating those years ago, it was very much aligned to, because we are Ministry of Human Resources, MOHR, Kasuma, KSM, whatever you want to call it lah. Now we're calling ourselves Kasuma. When you are part of Kasuma, you always have to go back to the big brother, which is the Department of Skills Development. So a lot of the things that we did, we aligned towards them, and because they have their own star rating, and we tried to do the same thing. After running it for a while, we realized that it wasn't exactly a perfect fit, because I keep telling people a lot about this. It's easy if you are rating something that is the same. So, for example, you have universities that have your ratings fine and good. They're all universities. You have the JPK system that rates the skills development centers. Fine and good. They're all skills development centers. But under HRD Corp, we have universities, we have skill development centers, we have private training providers, we have international training providers. So it is difficult to come up with a set of criteria that accurately measures the quality of the training provider.
Absolutely.
So it was because of that we realized, okay, that's it, forget it. Maybe this is not the best way to move forward. Maybe we should go back to the basics. After all, training, human capital development, we all come from the L&D space. And in the L&D space, one of the how should I put it, the cast in stone things that you do in L&D is to measure the effectiveness of training, usually more often than not using the Kirkpatrick model. So then we thought, okay, let's forget it. Why don't we use that model now? If we want to look at trainers and training providers, let use that as a model. At least it is a standard. And that is what we started to do. Of course, if you know Kirkpatrick, you know that there are levels to it. So we have started doing that. Even until now, we have not rolled it out to make it compulsory, because the mechanism is not quite there yet. Now, if you want to come in, it's a lot of manual work, and I know that forcing that on training providers, I'm not that cruel. I don't want to do that. Now it's very much, if you want to, you come in. If not, it's fine. But we are working out on a mechanism that will allow us to pick up, get the participants to actually rate training at the end of each course, and we get the data real time. So we are moving towards that, and we're also moving towards not just level 1, level 2, but beyond. Again, I spoke last week there was a ASEAN Human Capital Human Capital Development Investment seminar in KL. Was it last week, 2 weeks ago? So I spoke about 2 weeks ago. I spoke a bit about this. I say when we would look at effectiveness of training, we then have to look at how do we do it, and it's not we can standardize the process, we can standardize the way we measure, but till what level it depends. So if you're talking about levy contribution, then you cannot take it up too high, because the outcomes are different. Different companies send people for training for different reasons. If it's something that is a bit more standardized, for example, your program Latihan Madani or your funded programs, then it's fine. Then we take it up to level 3 and level 4. So what we want to do is we want to move towards evaluation mechanism that takes into mind two things. Number one, the experience of the participant.
True.
Looking at how effective the training is. And second thing, looking at how effectively the training delivers on its learning outcomes. So if you notice, we are not there yet. I'll be very honest with you and say that we are not there yet. But we are building in that. We are building in that direction. And if you have been watching us, you can see some of the things that we are doing. For example, recently we keep talking about new course system. We've been doing pilot tests, and I know some training providers were saying that it's more difficult now to register courses. But we are doing it because we want to build these quality processes even when you register those courses. So when you have those in place, then it becomes much easier for us to accurately evaluate the effectiveness of a training. So these are things that we are doing that we feel that in the long run, it will be beneficial to the industry as a whole. Oh, by the way, you asked the question, I probably didn't answer. There are close to 7,000 training providers in the country at the moment.
7,000 training providers in the country. Wow.
Oh, that's correct.
and 15,000 accredited trainers already in the country. That shows there is, to all the people who are listening, whether you're a trainer, training provider, or a participant just wanting to understand the training industry in Malaysia, there are tons of trainer providers. There are tons of trainers who are accredited also. So there is, from an upscaling or an upskilling perspective, there is enough which is there. Am I right in saying that, Sophia? There is enough which is there. It is how we make the best of it, isn't it?
There is another very interesting number that I'm going to throw now. It's not a secret. Everybody more or less knows this number. 2.5 billion ringgit. That is how much HRD Corp collects in levy on an annual basis. That is the size of the training industry. And it's only going to get bigger.
Ringgits
Yes.
is the levy HRD Corps collects on an annual basis. That's the size
Yes.
of the training industry. Do we really make up for it? Not really.
Well, I mean, we can go into at length. It depends how you look at it. The way we disburse the levy now, it's very much based on what the employers want. Because I keep saying that the decision to send for training is in the hands of the employers. So in
Yes.
terms of delivering what it is that the employers want, I believe that we are doing a good job. But then the question then becomes, what about the higher levels? Are you delivering what is required by the country? Those are conversations that we might want to get into, because those are much more interesting conversations, to tell you the truth.
Great, great. I mean, I would love to get into the details of it, but there's a lot to cover within the hour.
Yeah.
While we are at it, just a follow-up question to the earlier answer you made. From a rating perspective, and I have some comments which are coming through from some of the audience which are listening to us. What time frame are you looking at to implement this rating system? Just in case you are aware of, or if it is not, it is not. Are you looking at a time frame?
To tell you the truth, we have the mechanisms more or less in place. The one thing that we are lacking is the implementation. How do we do it? Because, like I said, I want to do it in a way that is as painless as possible, especially to the training providers and the trainers. No point I put something that makes it even more difficult for TPs and trainers to do their job, and what's the point of it? So it very much ties into the digital transformation plan that HRD Corp is going through at the moment. Because you know that we are refreshing our core system, we are introducing new things. So when we implement it will very much depend on how quickly we can roll these things out. I'm hoping that at the very latest by the end of this year or early next year, we will have something going. I mean, something going at the scale that I want. I'm not saying that it's not happening. It is happening at the moment. It's just that it is more on a, if you would like to, please do, but we're not going to force you to do it.
Okay. Great. That's nice. That's great to know. While we are at it, Krista, thanks for joining. Thanks for your kind words. She says, thanks, Sophian, for the backstory of accreditation and how it came about. That's really nice. Like I said, Sophia, a lot of us really didn't knew what was the backstory or the history behind it. So this is fantastic. This is a great one. Then we also have Ahmad Fawzan saying on your star rating. Hi, Ahmad. Thank you so much. Star rating actually became the pushing factor for us to aim higher as a training service provider back then. And I attribute to where we are now because of it. I fully support HRD Corp in setting a benchmark for the industry. Do you have any comments for Ahmad Fawzan, Sophia?
Yeah, I mean, Fawzan is someone I know and I hugely respect. I think that he's one of the great TTT trainers in this country. So yes, he supports us, we support him, and Fawzan always comes to me with ideas. You need to do this, you need to do that. So I agree. Yes, we need to set a benchmark, but doing it is not so straightforward. He knows what I'm talking about.
Thank you. But thank you, Fawzan. I appreciate that. We appreciate that. And we also have Nick Azmi mentioning, woohoo, National Training Week is around the corner. Yes, Adila, it is very much around the corner. And we had to time, I must also be honest with you, we had to time this podcast in such a way that it is just before the National Training Week. And I have a question on the National Training Week, which is coming soon. So I might as well fire that question to you, Sophie, right now. The National Training Week is around the corner, which is 14 June to 21st June. And it happens year on year. It has only gotten better year on year. What should people expect from the NTW happening this year, pretty much starting next week onwards? What should people expect?
I think the basis of NTW has not really changed. When we
Mhm.
first started the National Training Week, it was all about um, giving Malaysians the opportunity to go through training for free, basically for free. Because when we first started this, we realized that if you do the maths, less than half of Malaysians actually have ready access to funds and opportunities for upskilling. So
Correct.
this idea actually came, to tell you the truth, this idea came from the industry themselves, because it started in 2023. This is our third iteration, third year. So in 2023, I don't know whether you were part of it, we had the boot camps and all of that. It
Yeah.
was during these boot camps that these conversations came up. See, because we know that traders and training providers, a lot of people actually do offer training and all of that. But why don't we bring everything together for 1 week? Let's give away as much training for free as possible. Just for the idea is that, because you see, Vikram, the world is changing now. I'll give you an example. When I was studying, it is very difficult to get information. You have to go to the library, or I was in UKM. So if you know UKM in those days, the roads to Sungai Chua and Sungai Kajang, there were a lot of people making a killing at the side of the road, just photostating books. I probably did a lot of copyright infringement, but those were the days.
So,
Those were the days. But so what has happened since then is that access to information has actually gotten much easier, cheaper now. And I will always use the example of COVID as a perfect example of this. People, if you want to know something, you just go on YouTube, and this is a fact. Yeah, YouTube is the biggest
yes,
learning portal in the world. It
free
is
of
still
cost.
YouTube, free of charge. I mean, YouTube, you have that premium thing now, but it's still largely free of charge. So learning has come to the point where a lot of it is actually given away for free. But a lot of people don't know it. So the whole idea of NTW in the beginning was to give access, to give realization to Malaysians that you do have these opportunities. Just go out and get it, because the future is about people, and I'm not talking about Malaysia, I'm talking about the whole world. The future
Correct.
is not about you asking for information to come to you, you hoping for knowledge and skills to come to you. You have to take charge of it yourself. Go out there and learn what you want. Again, COVID years, I was stuck by my own in KL for a few months. I had to learn how to cook, or else I would starve or spend a hell of a lot of money on Grab. COVID, sorry, COVID, YouTube. That is how we learn, and that is what we started with this. But it has grown larger and larger, because while the base of it, the core idea is still there, which is basically free training given away. What we have seen is that, number one, a lot of this training now actually happens online
Correct.
and self-paced, because I think people realize that while training is free, not a lot of people actually want to travel and all of that, because these are things that we have discussed in the industry and things like that. So the number of courses that are being offered is getting bigger and bigger. But it's just that a lot of it is now happening at the learner's pace, or at least within the learner's own compound. They don't really have to travel. But then again, if you dig into NTW, there is still a lot of value to be had, because I know that one of the institute, Kemahiran Belia, is actually giving away a whole 6 months course for free. And
Okay.
there are also 3-day courses, 5-day courses. There is value in NTW. Of course, there's also a lot of courses that are more micro, that looks at more specific skills. There's also a lot of things that give you exposure. But again, there are more than 60,000 courses in NTW.
It's crazy. I mean, I went through the website. It is crazy to the amount of courses which are available, whether it is paid or even if it is on a discount or if it is free. And I know one of our friends in the training industry, I'm not sure whether he's listening to us today, but Jaga made a very valid point say from Accordia, he made a very valid point that are we selling NTW enough, or are we promoting NTW enough for a wider audience to know that there is so much of training which is available and they can benefit from it. So probably that is something to be looked into. While we are at it, thank you, Adila. Let's normalize upskilling and reskilling. Couldn't agree more with you, Adila. Thank you so much. There are a lot of comments coming, Sofian. There is one question while we are on NTW, so I'm going to shoot that right across to you from Anu Prakash. Hi, Anu. How are you doing? May I know if we have data on positive impact of NTW so far?
Okay. Thank you, Anu, for that question. It's also something that I've been asked before. So when we first started NTW, the data that we looked at is basically how many people actually going for courses, and the number has been increasing. It was 130,000 when we first started it. Last year, I think we got about 300 plus. This year, we are aiming for 1 million. So those are the things that we are looking at. More in-depth data, we also do measure in terms of effectiveness of training, like what I mentioned. So that data is also available. But anything beyond that is something that we have not done yet. I'm being very truthful, because again, NTW is about giving free courses. So if you want to look for specific outcomes, to do specific outcome studies, it is not so easy. But what we do have is that we have a lot of stories about positive outcomes of NTW. That one we have. If you follow HRD Corp, social media, we did showcase some of those stories. And it's not just from learners that attend courses. There have also been a lot of success stories from people offering courses. Because one of the easiest and most obvious ways to use NTW by a trainer is to do your accreditation. And I think it has been mentioned before. You want to do an accreditation, you need an audience. You don't want to run a course because you don't know whether people will come. Then do it for free during NTW, record it and send it for accreditation. That's the most obvious way. But I know of trainers and training providers that actually use NTW more strategically to get leads, to be able to penetrate companies or markets that they have not been able to do before. One simple example, this is a real example, but I'm not going to use any real names here. Let's say I'm a trainer, I want to penetrate HRD Corp, for example. What I can do is I can offer a training course and specifically invite people from HRD Corp to attend. People that I target, and by doing this, a lot of trainers actually got business and were able to penetrate. So I think if you're talking about data, I agree with you, Anu. Yes, we will need to look as NTW matures. We will need to look at how we can measure properly the effectiveness and the positive impact. So, but in terms of data, I'm not really there. But if you want to hear stories, take me out for teh tarik anytime. I can tell you a lot of stories about NTW.
Definitely a teh tarik between Anu and Sofian, and I would love to join that. I'm more than happy. I don't like doing these virtual sessions, but the podcast virtually does very well. So there we are. And while we are at it, our very dear friend Bhavani also says Bootcamp and NTW are good initiatives.
Hi, Beth. How are you?
So Sofian is asking how are you? And they are good initiatives. Yes, indeed they are. And my last question on NTW before I move to the next one is there anything special happening the week of NTW this year which you would like to reveal the beans on this podcast? Is there something special which I can use it on my podcast to say, hey, the news flashed out right here, hot off the press from Sofian?
Now you're putting pressure on me, Vikram. To tell you the truth, I mean, there is nothing really big and special that we are offering this year, because a lot of the things that we have done, that we have already done before. But some of the things that we are looking at is that we want to expand human capital development, learning and development, not only looking at the skills, be it essential skills, soft skills, hard skills. We also want to move into culture and all that. So some of the interesting things that are going to happen, we actually started a debate series between schools, and the final will actually be next week. We also started a pantun series between varsities, and that is also ongoing. We are doing a Shark Tank thing for the first time. So if you're expecting something grand and all that, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Not really there. But one thing that and this might be useful for training providers and trainers actually, but also by and large, if you go into the portal, you see a lot of curated AI programs, and I think for a lot of people, this is the best time to learn AI, uh, because there's a lot of AI stuff, and you're not even if there's a lot of stuff that you can go for classes. There's a lot of virtual led sessions. There are also a lot of e-learning curated content. So that is something that you want to look at. We also have a special thing that we want to expose to let more people know about our industrial skills framework. So we do have this curated e-learning content that looks at industrial skills framework and how learning can be fixed along a sector based in terms of occupations and skills and things like that. So these are some of the highlights. But if you're talking about a big hoo-ha thing, I'm sorry, Vikram.
Actually,
But
yeah,
we do have that opening ceremony 14-15 in Bukit Jalil. I think there's a lot of exciting things happening there,
indeed.
because it's a hodgepodge of a lot of things. Physical activity, learning and development. Big Bad Wolf is actually going to open a special session for NTW. So 14-15 Bukit Jalil, that is definitely still on.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. And this year we have our own NTW song. Thanks, Adila. Catchy enough to dance yourself. Wow. I'm definitely going to be there and I'm looking forward to it. Well, Sophia, and to be honest, I just threw a wild card at you and I got more than I anticipated in terms of response. You shared so much. And yes, very, very important to all our people who are listening out there. There are a lot of good AI courses which are happening under the NTW week. If you want to upskill yourself from an AI perspective, there are a lot of people who are offering that, whether they are paid or they are free, but some of them are free. So do look out for them and benefit from these AI programs which are coming across. So while we are at it, I think we covered NTW quite a lot. And continuing from there, again, one of our friends, Sofian Sumati says, and Chik Sofian, nowadays my claims are approved within 24 hours and the training fees credited within 7 days. Thanks to your team who are delivering an excellent service. So this is an appreciation for you, Enchek Sofian, and the entire HRD Corp team, to be very honest. Can you tell us, I mean, it just curiously, it drives me to a question where I would love to ask, what was the past and what has changed over the last few years that now the claims are getting approved within 24 hours and the training fee credited within 7 days. So, what was it? Where are we now? Would you like to quickly share with the audience so that they get a sense of what the context here
I
or
think
what Sumit shared?
a lot of the things that we are doing, and I know a lot of people saying that you improve processes using AI. Just for info, we do use AI, but not that much. It's a combination. So when we had a plan, in fact, I think the minister actually announced this in a few of our events. Our vision is for grants to be approved within within an hour. Grant applications to be approved within an hour, and claims to be dispersed within 3 days, 4 days, something like that. So, but in order to do that, it requires a lot of things, and some of the things we have been able to do, and we can do. Some of the things requires technology intervention. So on our part, what we have done is like I mentioned, I spoke about a bit about it, maybe not in detail, but we are actually looking at how do we more effectively collect data on training. So when you talk about improve turnaround times, you actually start even from the registration of the courses itself. So we want to put those in things that, let's put it in a simple way. Why process the same information 4 times when when you only need to process it once? So we are doing those things from a
Consciously.
process point of view. From a process point of view, these are things that we can do. Of course, the most easiest and but also probably most difficult, and one that will make my CHRO scream at me, is just give me more people, I can do whatever you want. And to tell you the truth, we have done that in the past. Uh, but we know that that is not sustainable. So if you ask me, in the first step is more manpower. Then we
Hmm.
move to improve processes. And when you talk about improve processes, it's looking at the re-engineering of the whole process, not just improving here and there. And then eventually we want to move into the incorporation. I mean, we have already started the incorporation of AI to replace some of the human tasks. And eventually we want to move towards a more streamlined system that speeds everything up. So we did a lot. Thank you, Zumati, for that. But we have done a lot to be where we are now. But our aim is actually much faster than that. And I don't think I'm giving anything away because YB Sim has already mentioned this before. Good thing he didn't say when we were going to deliver it because we're still working on it. But I'm hoping that we are moving. We are moving. We will get there soon.
Excellent, excellent. And while you were explaining all this on the process side of it and the framework side of it so very well in Sheikh Sofyan, we had one of your team members who very simplistically revealed the secret to say, Adila said, let me spill the secret. When we have a good leader, everything works wonderfully well. So
Well,
nice of you.
I would say the other part, a good leader is nothing without
Great team.
passionate, creative, driven people. Because I always say that the job of a leader is to just the point is to just point the way. A leader by himself cannot do anything. You still need to move everyone in the same direction together. Only then magic happens, I guess.
Fantastic. Well, HRD Corp has been creating some magic, and I'll continue with that. The interesting part is we are already 50 minutes into the discussion, and I've still not
Oh,
asked
really?
you. Yes, the time has just flown by, and I've still not asked you one of the core questions. And thanks to some of our audience, which is asking questions and sharing their sentiments, comments, and sharing their love with us. I'm going to ask you to the heart of the discussion, which was one of the key questions I wanted to ask you. What,
Hmm.
according to you, you having been in this industry for a while, known what is happening, is the future of training in Malaysia?
Okay. Interesting question. Um, you see, when you look at it, I mean, every day I have conversations about this. To tell you the truth, in fact, this
Okay.
morning I just had a very interesting conversation with someone regarding this. I believe that the future of training is going to be a lot more, like I said, it will be a lot more user driven than what it is now.
Mhm.
And I think the future of training, interestingly, might even take over the future of education. Because I keep saying this, that where I see us moving forward is that as we go forward, people will be appreciated for what they can do instead of what they have learned. I think it is an easy way. You don't really have to look very far to have a vision of this future. Just look at what is happening in the technology industry. Technology industry, I've seen this myself. They don't really care what degree you have. They want to know
Correct.
what you can do, what certifications do you have, what specific skill sets do you have. And while it is easy to look at skill sets in terms of hard skills, whatever it is, like coding, cyber security, AI, we also must not forget what used to be termed soft skills, but I would term it essential skills.
Essential.
Essential because as we move forward, AI probably can do a lot of the things that we are doing. Recently, World Economic Forum released their report. They have a report every year or so that talks about the future of work, and they have a
Yes.
whole list of jobs that are going to disappear. And those jobs are basically the ones that involve processing. And you would be surprised, one of the jobs in the list are actually personal assistants because
Mm.
AI
Yes.
can actually do all of that for you. So, but the thing about World Economic Forum, they say that the future is very much around technology. They talk about cybersecurity, AI, and all. I look at it from a different way. I'm not disputing that report. I agree with it. Yes, technology is important, but I also feel now that it is much more important than ever for us to strengthen our essential skills. And that for me is what the future of training and what the training industry should be looking at. Because a lot of people do essential skills, but that's why in the past we used to call it soft skills, because we always think of soft skills as something that is not measurable. It is something
Correct.
that comes naturally. But you use the word skill. Skill means that it is something that you have to cultivate and you have to learn. So if you ask me, the future of training and the future of human capital development is about strengthening your skills in a very, very measurable ways. So you're talking about digital credentialing, you're talking about micro credentialing. These are all terms that are coming in, and not only for hard skills, also for soft skills or essential skills. So I always tell training providers and trainers, if you want to improve your offerings, get a certification and get a proper certification. In fact, now it is even possible for you to do your own certification because there are, for example, there are ISO standards that determine how do you
True.
evaluate and certify learners. So for me, that is the future. Training becomes much more niche, um, much smaller, um, and at the same time, I also feel that a lot of it will then be driven by the learner themselves. So you're going to see that. I'm not saying it's going to die out, but I see a shift from classroom-based training and virtual instructor-led training to self-paced training. It's already happening.
It's happening.
So that I see is the future. So a lot for trainers and training providers, I think you have to think about these things and look into these things because this is where we, like it or not, this is where we are headed, and we already see the shift happening, and we are trying to measure as much as we're trying to adapt as much as we can, so that because we don't want to be in the way of the future. HRD Corp role has always been about the development of the Malaysian workforce in whatever way that entails. So if that is the way that the industry is going, then we have to follow accordingly. And I feel that the industry will also have to follow accordingly.
Okay, very interesting, very detailed insights, very, very rich in its content. Thank you so much on that answer. While you were answering that, we also had Zahir who said from the team, besides NTW, we have a great lineup of events under AYO 2025. Hopefully, these will give the industry useful insights for improvement. Sorry, I'm not aware of this, Zahir.
Okay.
Probably Enchik Sofian can throw some light on this one. What is AYO 2025?
Actually, we call it IOS internally.
I
AYOS stands for the ASEAN Year of Skills. So the symposium that I mentioned, that is actually one of the events under the ASEAN Year of Skills. So throughout the whole year of 2025, in conjunction with our chairmanship of ASEAN, the Human Resources Ministry has put together this lineup of events that looks into skills. So you're talking about skills compatibility among the ASEAN countries. How do we talent mobility, skills mobility, mutual recognition of skills. So these are some of the things that are happening. And as Zahir rightly mentioned, there is a whole lineup of events that are happening. Go on over to the HRD Corp website or the IOS website. You will be able to get more information there. And I look
Nadila,
forward to seeing all of you.
yeah, and Nadila also mentioning the
Yeah,
same.
exactly.
Keep yourself updated with the HRD Corp social media platform. I need to learn, Nadila. I was not so. I read about the Asian skills of leadership, but I didn't kind of match to it. I didn't do 1+1=2. Okay, lovely. We are on the hour, and I want to respect and take Sofian's time, everyone's time. We're just going to take 5 minutes more before we wrap up. Are you okay with that? There are lots of more questions to ask, but I think we're going to run out of time. And I don't want to make it a very delayed night for you today.
Sure, Vikram, no problem.
Okay, I'm just going to ask two more questions and we have a rapid fire round and we're going to do that. So, one of the questions after that is, what are the top 3 priorities for HRD Corp as of today?
I think number one will definitely be certification, because the question has always been, how does HRD Corp ensure the skill levels, and we always measure skill levels in terms of certification, because certification defines what you can do. So we want to see a bigger shift towards certification, take up of certification courses among the workers that are under us. That's number one. Number two, as usual, we would like, this is something that I in particular am doing, is that, like I told you, usage of levy is very much driven by what the employers want to do. But HRD Corp is playing more and more of an advisory and strategic role, in which we want to guide the industry on how best to use your levy, so that you can ensure not only upskilling of your staff, but your continued sustainability and competitiveness in the market. So we are coming up with new things in which, increasing the flexibility and the scope of the levy, so that employers can use it in more strategic ways. So that's the second thing that we're doing. Of course, the third thing, we want to look to the future. What I mentioned, some of it, things like skills, digital credential, micro credentialing. These are activities that we want to move in. We want to look to be part of in the future, so that we'll be in line in current trends. I'll just add one more as a bonus. Always and forever, we want to talk about the quality of human capital development in the country. So that is something that we are always, HRD Corp is always heavily invested in.
Excellent. I asked for 3, I got 4. One bonus for it's like a icing on the top, the dessert on top of the nice dinner which was already served, which is excellent. Really nice of you. Thank you for highlighting that to us. My last question before we go to the rapid fire round, and I know you touched upon it, but I mean, in one of the previous discussions I heard from you, but I want to ask you on these live session, what steps are being taken to upskill the trainers' capabilities, that we not only deliver excellent training programs in Malaysia, but also Southeast Asia, APAC, globally? What are the thoughts? What steps are you all planning to take?
We have actually started, but we started on the lower level, the base level, because if you've heard about the boot camps, the masterclass series, these are ways of us to reach out to the new trainers or the fledgling trainers or training providers, those who just came into the market, to give them some idea about what it takes to become a good trainer, to be an effective trainer and things like that. In fact, it was mentioned, I remember when we did our first bootcamp, there was this comment that said that sitting through that is like 5 years of teh tarik session with a master trainer delivered in 3 days. So that is something that we have already been doing. But this year we are hoping to do more. We actually introduced something called the Training Market Transformation Initiative this year, in which HRD Corp will actually invest in the training space itself. So we go back to training, of course. We will have initiatives in which we will train certain trainers and training providers in terms of trainers-related competencies, as well as giving opportunities for trainers and training providers to attend international conferences and things like that. So these are some of the things that we're doing. But if you leave it to HRD Corp to upskill trainers, it's going to be difficult, because there's 15,000 accredited trainers out there. Those are accredited, yeah. The ones that are registered, not yet accredited, is another 20,000. So there's a lot of trainers out there. I still feel that end of the day, the responsibility and to upskill and continuously stay relevant is in the hands of the trainers themselves. So we are looking at continuous professional development, but not only that, we are also looking at how to make more and more self-development, trainer-related self-development courses available for trainers in this country at I wouldn't say for free, because I don't know whether that's something that is possible at such a scale, but at least at a much more affordable and accessible price for everyone. So we are looking at that. But what I would like to say is, you cannot push it to HRD Corp to do that. We can do these things, but end of the day, it is up to the individual trainers and training providers to do that, to do it on their own. We are also working with associations, and also in time with IOS, how can we help to push trainers beyond Malaysia? So these are things that we are currently looking at. Keep in touch, keep in tune with us. We will announce new things as and when they come along.
Okay. While we are at it, I was going to wrap up that as my last question, but Nora Sekin just typed and pressed the enter button at the last minute. So I will respect that. Any training of new accredited trainer to participate and enhance their skills besides,
I think NTW is one. There's a lot of trainers related. There's a lot of courses offered for free. So that's the immediate answer. We have a whole new series of bootcamp coming up. There's one in JB in early July. The one in KL, which is a something I'm planning to be a bit special, will be end of July. While those are not free, it is actually very, very affordable. So those are also ways that you can do to enhance your skills. And in line with the TMT, there will be other things announced in future coming along. So please stay tuned for that.
While
And I
you're
think
saying
Zahir,
stay
yeah,
tuned, as I just
correct.
mentioned, stay tuned. We have something in JB early July. Fantastic. This team is working cohesively, online, virtually, offline, very well together. I can
All
see
right.
it, I can sense it while it is happening at 9 o'clock in the night. Now we are done with the questions which were supposed to be asked, and I know we are above than the hour. But and check Sophia and I also have a fun rapid fire round which we call the FRFR, which is just 5 questions which have got nothing to do with your profession, not so much to do with your profession. It is more in a fun way, as much as possible. So, if you're okay, we are going to ask you those questions. Probably a
Sure.
lot of your team members come to know more about you, which they probably would not know, or it will be just a fun way. Now, the interesting part about this for today's questions is um, I was doing the, we do the poster. So I was doing the poster of you coming on the podcast, and my son was standing right behind me. So he said, "Can I write the fun rapid fire questions this time?" I
Oh gosh. Okay.
very happily delegated to him. So I explained to him who you are. I explained to him what your role is. But these questions are from a 8-year-old something boy, which is just coming saying, "I want to ask these questions and I want to listen to them while you answer." So these are not coming from me.
Sure.
Very basic. They're very simple, with a pure heart. And if you don't mind, I'll ask you them.
Sure.
Okay. So he said, when was the last time you yourself did a training session?
Ooh, okay. Um, to tell you the truth, I do a lot of speaking sessions. Training sessions, actual training sessions. To tell you the truth, I can't remember. But if you talk
Okay.
about small sessions where I coach and I mentor, I do that practically every day.
Okay. 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 Uh, and then, if what is your most favorite Malaysian food?
Ooh. Hmm. I mean, I love food, so that is a bit tough for me to choose.
Most favorite one dish.
If I had to choose, I would say char kway teow.
Char kway teow. Okay, interesting. What is the most? Which one is your most favorite country you have been to, except staying in Malaysia? Which your most favorite country you love to go to?
Oh, um, I haven't been to that many countries to tell you the truth, but I actually I've been to Philippines, and I find Philippines to be a very interesting place with many things that are of interest. So based on my limited travel experience, I would say the Philippines.
Okay. The fourth question: which is your most favorite hotel in Kuala Lumpur?
Sorry, most
Which is
favorite
your most favorite hotel in Kuala Lumpur?
hotel. Okay. Okay, I have a very specific answer for this, and if you can, you ask me why. M Resort, near KPGA in Damansara.
Okay.
I
Why
love
is
that
that?
hotel because if you stayed in the hotel, the way they set up the room is really funny.
Oh,
You
is it?
actually the bathroom is actually totally open to the golf course. So if you
Okay.
leave the window open and you bathe, people can actually, if they want to, they can actually see you from the golf course. So I find that very fascinating. What goes through the mind of these designers when they design a hotel?
Very interesting. Very interesting. While you are at it, Zahir did mention Nescafe for beverage. I'm
Anybody
interested
who
in.
knows me knows that I need that every day.
Well, the last question to you, obviously, because there are five I have to ask you. When was your best? When was your best training session you ever attended? Which was your best training session you ever attended? You attended a training session and which you think this was the best. You were mind blown by that training session.
Interesting. Um, I think it was I don't know when this was. This was quite some time ago. And I don't want to be a mood breaker or what, but it was actually more of a religious training sort of thing. So I mean, you know how those things are. During that training, I think it revealed a lot about myself to me. So it was kind of a mind blown moment for me. But this was many years ago. I can't remember when. It was just something that I went through.
Fantastic, fantastic. I mean, there is no right or wrong answer. It is just to know a little bit more about you. And like I said, today's questions were literally curated by my son. So I asked all of
Thank,
them to.
thank him, by the way, Vikram. They are very good questions. Thank you very
They are very
much.
good. He said, I'm a curious person. I'm going to write the 5 questions. I'm like, okay, go for it.
Wonderful.
Okay, with that, we come to the end of our LinkedIn and YouTube live podcast of the Curious Mind series with nobody else but none other than Enchek Sofian Amin. It was lovely, lovely, lovely to have you. And before that, I would also like to thank all the audience, everybody, whether you've watched us live on LinkedIn or whether you've watched us live on YouTube. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions. We loved it. I didn't realize where did 1 hour 13 minutes go. I'm sure Sofian, even you didn't realize where did it go,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I did.
Okay, excellent. So again, thank you so much, Sofian. Any parting words before we say goodnight to everyone?
Um, I guess there's only one thing to say. NTW 14 to 15. See you in Bukit Jalil, and the portal is open. Free courses, guys. Free. Go in. Look for whatever you want to learn. It will be there. And I'll see you all in Bukit Jalil on the 14th and the 15th.
Excellent. So thank you, Sumati. Thank you for mentioning to us. But 14th and 15th, NTW starting, Bukit Jalil, be there. It's going to be a great event. It's a lot of people are going to come, a lot of learning to done, and a lot of networking also, which happens during the NTW. I mean, we should mention that fact. A lot of good
Correct.
networking happens during NTW. So be there. I will definitely see you, Sofian, today
See you.
virtually, but definitely in person. And a big thanks from the Curious Mind series. A big thank you from all of us. Good night and take care.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.